Hello!
Oh, you get so excited when you do that.
I do. Oh.
That's not good, Alice.
No, that's not good. That's very unprofessional. Hello, good morning, everyone. How are you all?
It's really good to see you on episode 3 of the Yellow Magic Hour. Thank you so much for joining us live today.
How did we get to episode 3?
Well, it came from after last week, which was episode 2.
So we can count. We've got Graham already saying good morning. Let's do some round. If you are watching live, please do get involved on the chat. We really want to hear who you are, where you are, and what you think of culture in today's episode 3. What did we do last week? Let's do a quick...
So last week we talked to the amazing Kirsty Clousley from the Juno Way and Matt King from Sales Change. And it was, can you just turn all your tech off, please?
I know.
You're really quite distracting.
I'm sorry.
And we talked about business as a whole in terms of starting a business, how you can start to market your business when you're really, really early on in your journey of business. And obviously Matt spoke to us about how you can grow that business with sales and some of your sales techniques in terms of implementing that into your strategy.
We did.
And this week...
Well, we've got a couple of champions. Can I just apologise first? I did have sound on, but that's because I had to share Periscope onto Twitter. The reason I'm telling you this is because we're live on Periscope and Twitter, which we did for the first time in episode 2, and we're doing again in episode 3, as well as Facebook and YouTube. And we've got loads of people saying good morning.
Good morning, Vishali.
Let's do a quick round robin and then we'll talk about today's. We've got Nikki G, morning. We've got the lovely Vishali, good morning. We've got Matt King, who was from episode 2, talking about growth for sales last week.
Good morning,
hey, Matt. Who else did I see?
Laurie.
Hatchfully yours. Good morning, Sheba. And we've done Laurie. Good morning, Laurie. So welcome, everyone. Episode 2. But today we have episode 3, Emily.
Which, as you can see by the top, is all about culture. Culture matters. And that's actually a really exciting one for this, because we get a bit geeky about it anyway, don't we? As a Yellow Tuxedo brand.
We do. It's I think culture, I'm going to say, and I'm going to apologize to our guests for this, but culture's almost sometimes a bit of an unsung hero. It's so important to your business and so important to, you, your business and your clients. But that's why we wanted to dedicate an entire episode to it. And that's why we've got a couple of champions of culture. Today,
champions of culture.
I know, I came up with that copy when I was writing during the week. So we've got Mike Irving coming on second, and Mike Irving founded a company called Sport 101, and that is the UK's number 1, the top, the best hockey academy.
It
is. It genuinely. Mike's kind of in the yellow room, sort of going, "Is it?" No, Mike, it is. And Mike basically helps young people get into hockey, get into sport, which is never a bad thing. And Mike also champions culture for hockey GB, team hockey. UK hockey.
Let's let him answer.
Yeah, we'll let him answer that.
He's get it right.
And then, but also we have our first guest.
Benjamin Drury, the culture guy. He's actually got culture in his name. He's that much into his culture, which is amazing.
It is. If you're trying to find him, and we always do at the end, where can you find us? If you're trying to find him, type in Ben Drury, the culture guy, and that will bring him up. Yes.
And he works with businesses to basically really kind of look at their culture as a brand, what they can be doing to implement their own brand culture, and really how they should be living their culture. And that's a big thing. It's all very well talking about saying you have a culture, but do you actually have a culture if you're not living it day to day with your team?
Yeah, big thing, isn't it, about your values being realized in your behaviors.
And then don't forget that one really, really special person we're going to be speaking to today.
I nearly said it.
Go do it.
Ricky Locke, the magician, is with us. He's got something special lined up today. We don't think it's soaring someone in. He's sending us and get on with the show.
Yes.
So we've said, Laurie, we've got Cy Hargreaves. We do love a bit of Cy. Fab YouTube channel. Definitely go check Cy out.
Loving your new logo, by the way.
Yeah, we do love his new logo. And then we've got the Juno Way, who was also a guest last week.
Kirsty, I believe, is having her hair done right now. So thank you so much for watching from your hairdresser.
Yes, and we hope your hairdresser. Say hello to your hairdresser. Right, let's get on with the show. I need to do this. No, sorry. Oh, this is not the slickest I've ever been. I need to do that. I need to do that. And I need to do that.
Thank you for walking us through every step.
I know that was not as slick as episode 1 or 2, was it?
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing? It's like being on the BBC.
Not quite, is it? But we try. We
try.
I'm like Natasha Kowalski.
Natasha. We can't both drink at the same time. There'd be a gap.
Ben, how are you today? And thank you so much for wearing yellow.
I'm doing all right this morning. Thank you.
Cool. Now, tell us. So you are known as the Culture Guy.
Yep.
Why are you the Culture Guy? What is it you exactly do?
I help organizations understand and implement their culture. As you said so brilliantly in the introduction, doesn't matter what you say your culture is, it's how you behave.
Yeah.
And my job is to help them articulate what they want to build and see the holes and the work that they need to do. Ultimately, it's about helping organizations create places where their people can thrive and do their best work.
And so you've been doing this for a while now. What is it that started this journey for you? What is it that was the catalyst for you starting working with brands like you do at the moment?
It was a bit of a strange journey, to be honest. I've worked in all sorts of sectors, in IT and banking, in retail, in the government sector as a social worker, and all the way through, I've seen lots of different organizations and the way they go about things. And it's always struck me that when your people come to work and enjoy what they do, everything works better and revenue goes up and costs go down. So I was just always gobsmacked that every organization just didn't build organizations like that. It just didn't make sense to me why they didn't. And it took me about 20 years to figure out that actually I could see things in a way that other people necessarily couldn't. And it took me a long time to kind of figure out that not everybody saw the world in the same way I did. And at that point, I thought, well, actually, let's put something together that helps other people see the things that I see, and hopefully can help them actually start to deliver. And it took a long time to work out that the concept was quite simple, but it was really difficult to implement well.
It's often the case, though. The simplest things are the things that people forget. And it's things like, so you're discussing a minute about exactly what culture should be and how you implement that. But it's little things like, as a team, everyone will be on the same page and making sure that everyone is going in the same direction is so key. But it's such a simple statement to say. But so often, I think we've had this in a pre-conversation before we came on live today, was the fact that you have a CEO here and you have the workers here and you have a team here, but actually they are on completely different chapters sometimes. And actually you need to get them onto that same page so that they can turn the pages quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to, we can talk a little bit about this later, it comes down to the structures people put in place. And often they're about control. They're not about values. And that's where it all starts to get a bit messy as it goes down the chain.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, actually. I've never thought of that before, about control rather than actually values and, culture. About, I can think of previous employees. Yes, I was employed once. God bless them. And, actually in hindsight, you can certainly see it was a bit more about control, and certainly wasn't a lived culture. The values were not lived and breathed by the senior leader team and above as well. So no, that's very, very, I've never thought about that before like that.
In your opinion, Ben, what are, in terms of a strong brand culture, what are the top things that you see that make a really, really good value culture?
We've got to be really careful not to define good versus bad.
Sure.
Because good versus bad is not what the research says. It's strong versus weak. And I'll give you a really, really good example. Uber, up until recently, had a really, really strong culture at win at all costs. Now, I look in and go, wasn't a great culture. I wouldn't want to work there. But actually, their job was to build $1 billion company, and they absolutely nailed it. It's not a culture I would want to work at. And I look at it and go, pretty morally bankrupt in places what was going on there. But their culture was absolutely clear. We hire people that get stuff done. And it did the job. So, the research is all about strong cultures versus weak cultures. We've got to be careful not to put a judgment on that. Now, we can put a judgment on it as individuals and go, I don't want to work there.
Sure. But
it's about strength of culture, being really clear and it working through the organization like a stick of rock. That's the way I kind of explain it.
I love that. I really love that. You were discussing a couple of days ago when you were working in your employed days.
Yeah.
About the employee that you had, which will remain nameless.
Oh, well, I can't remember their name actually, but yeah, that's fine. We
great manager you were.
No, well, it was many years ago. No, we had it was a bad recruit, if I'm honest, and happy to admit I made that mistake. And we employed them, and it was for the Geek Squad. I don't mind talking about this. Someone's just mentioned the good old days of Geek Squad, and we recruited them. And what I'd failed to check that they would be okay with some of the more prominent values and beliefs and thoughts we had within the Geek Squad, i.e. wearing a uniform, right? And so when they started, they wouldn't wear it. And I'm like, well, how did I omit that from the recruitment process? One, and then B, you think, well, why did they apply for that role? You know, I'm not going to take 100% of the responsibility. Well, I'll take a lot of it. And you know, then why did they apply for a role where they weren't going to be happy about that? And I understand, you know, wearing a uniform does not make culture, but actually, when it's a strong part of a culture or team, then it's there from the outset. So, you know, yeah, I absolutely made that mistake.
I think that's good. The branding of that particular business versus the culture, they do come hand in hand sometimes. And when you've got a strong brand, they aren't two separate things, are they? What would you say to that, Ben?
Absolutely. And you mentioned it, you know, in your introduction about, you know, culture is all about lots of people together in an organization. It's not about one or two, but actually it is about one or two, because when you are really clear on who you are and what you stand for and the purpose of your existence, those values overflow into your messaging, into connecting with your ideal client, into all your marketing collateral, into the way you communicate internally, into the way you make decisions. And it just simplifies the whole process. So you can actually get on with doing what you set out to do and not get confused and remake decisions every month where you decide, well, should I work with this client or should I work with this client? Or how are we going to do this market? It all just kind of overflows from the values that you are living on a daily basis when you absolutely nail it.
So not to completely unpack all of the magic that you bring when you bring the culture guide to any business, but when you approach a new client, a new customer, what is the very first thing that you work on with a new client? What's the first thing that you always say, this is what we need to nail down first?
First thing I do is I'll talk to the leadership about what is it, what do they see as the culture of the organization? What are the core values that we're building on here? And then I'll have exactly the same job with various pockets in the rest of the organization, just to find out whether they're lying to me and what the truth is and what the reality is. Because without that kind of understanding and figuring out where the overlaps are and where the holes are, we don't know what the problems are. People bring me in because there's obviously problems. And that is the first way to figure out where those issues are and what things we can do to start to have big wins very quickly.
Do you just said the word lying there, and made me smile a little bit. Do you sometimes think it's a matter of lying, or the fact that people will have a complete idealization of what they think their brand is doing, but actually in reality it's very far removed, because they're living in their day-to-day world of their business, but actually when you step back from it, they've created something in their head that isn't actually being translated on paper or in terms of their teams?
Yeah, it is that second, but if you peel back the layers of that second one where they're blinkered, actually they're blinkered because they want to be blinkered, because they don't want to look. So there is a level to which they're lying to themselves about it often.
Yeah, often that's the case as well. Cool. Right.
There's a couple of comments, unless you're about to ask another question. There's a couple of comments, Ben, and then I think if it's okay, we're going to pop you back in the yellow room and move to magic, because this is flying along this morning. So Matt King is laughing at my bad recruit story that made me smile. But you know, as long as I can make people laugh, I'm okay with that. I'm happy to admit I made that mistake. More importantly for me, Nikki G says, "Love this," and I think that's really important. We know Nikki, you know, in business. And I think it's important because I don't like getting anything wrong. So Nikki, I apologize if I get anything wrong here, but Nikki, you know, solopreneur, she's a works alone solopreneur and everything else. So, you know, imparting that culture of thought process onto solopreneurs is something we're quite strong about. We talked about this in the yellow room beforehand, didn't we? Almost a Robin Hood of taking processes and thoughts from big businesses into small business. Laurie says, love the strong versus weak summary. Yeah, so did I. I think I'd never thought about that before. Ricky in the yellow room, but on Facebook, this is how we do things around here, culture. Yeah, very true. Oh, Matt's got one of them. As part of the ritual to work for me, you have to serve me tea every day religiously at a certain temperature. We're pretty confident Matt's joking, but you never know.
I don't think he is.
I love that one, because one of the values that we hold as an organization is everybody makes tea. And the principle is actually there is no hierarchy of value. It doesn't matter whether you're CEO or consultant or the cleaner. Actually, if you're making tea, make it for everybody that wants one. You're not too posh or important to do it. So I love the idea of tea. 100%. Tea wins every time.
It is very true, actually, isn't it? You know, yeah, very true. A couple more comments to flash up because they are going today. Ricky's going to be talking in a second, but behavior is driven by culture. Laurie says, in a service industry, it's so important. Very true, very true. Nikki was just agreeing. I am indeed, and this is something I'm regularly looking at to ensure my values are flowing down into my membership. And that's what we're going to talk in the second half, is like ensuring your clients are getting that, you know, your culture as well. And I think I omitted to say in any industry. So thank you, Laurie, for...
One thing that I have completely forgotten to, and do you know what? We said this beforehand.
Oh my God, we've even got a note to say this, Emily, and we still forgot.
We were meant to, as we forgot last week as well, to introduce you by going, Benjamin, what is your morning routine?
I was
and I forgot to say
about that. I'm not quite as brave as Matt from last week. I don't get in the sea or anything like that first thing in the morning. But I'm up fairly early before the kids get up, so I can get out and get some miles in the legs and go running, so that I'm kind of up and I'm dressed before my kids even wake up. So I'm kind of ready for the day before I get distracted.
Love it. Okay. Thank you very much for asking. I can't believe I didn't ask it as we
ended. I know. I can't believe.
We even wrote it down. Morning routine.
Oh well. Just shows it's live. Ant and Dec must have issues like this, surely. No, I don't think they do. Ben, thank you very much, and look forward to talking to you again in a moment.
Bye.
See you in a bit.
Bye. Right, we've got It's a Kind of Magic. Ricky, he's a lizard. Where's your head gone? This is not the sawing the head off magic trick, is it, Ricky?
Not quite. No, I can't get it in this room. It's too big. So maybe we'll have to do it another time. Maybe we'll do it outside or something like that. Who knows?
Oh, I love it. Let's do an outside broadcast. I can do that.
I don't trust anyone's internet.
But I'll tell you what, I will do something that will still be exciting, because I know Benjamin was sharing on social media. He really wants to see someone cut in half. So we'll try something of a similar nature in a second. But I love that chat, Ben. Really good. Really good.
Cool. Right. What have you got for us?
All right, cool. So let's try something really unique. And Emily, I'd like you to help me out with this one. So very simple. Just say stop whenever you like.
Stop.
Okay, cool. So we're going to use this one here, the Joker. Is that all right with you? You don't mind?
He's all right. Yeah, he's fine.
He's all right. Lovely. So here's the thing. We're going to make this very special so that we know that we can come back to this later on, just so we know that it's your card. So Emily, I'm just going to write Emily, but to make it even more special, Emily, can you just give me a 2-digit number, please?
28.
28. Any reason why?
It was a good age.
Oh, very good. Very good. All right. So here's the idea. We can see that. Hopefully you can see on the camera. Can you see that okay?
Yep.
Wrong way around.
Yep.
All right. Now, Alan, I don't want you to feel left out. So you're going to also help me out here as well. So would you shout stop for me whenever you like as well?
Stop.
Perfect. Now, this one is going to be yours. Now, just to make sure, it doesn't matter if I see that, but that's not the same as Emily's, right?
Correct.
Awesome. So we're going to try a little bit of magic here. And I always ask people for favorite magic words. Now, Alan, I know you love magic so much. Now, do you have a favorite magic word?
Well, normally I would pick one from, hold on. Oh, yes. Sorry, Ricky, we do. The kids and I have a magic word. It's actually Bora Bora.
As in the place, Bora Bora?
It's in the place. So we have a magic word. Okay. We go, it's Bora Bora.
All right, fantastic.
Well, yeah, sorry. I mean, feel free to use abracadabra, obviously.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We'll do that. So Alan, Emily, and me, we're going to say this. Hopefully there'll be no delay. But on the count of 3, I'll go 3, 2, 1, and then we're going to say that out loud. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Bora Bora.
And you'll see.
Wow.
That we have your signed card, which is weird, right? But look, here's the thing. I want to show you something here. We're going to place the card inside into the middle. Alan, with a little bit of sassiness, will you snap your fingers for me? Perfect. And you'll see, look, it jumps to the top, which is really weird. Now, Emily, do you think you can beat his sassiness?
Yeah.
Perfect.
No way.
3 snap your fingers for me. And we have another card. Now, that's obviously not the greatest thing, but I want to share this thing with you because the idea here was talking about cutting in half, right? And I can't remember how this even started, Alan. Do you remember why we even started about cutting people in half?
I think Ben made a comment somewhere on social media and I've just decided to run with it. I think, Ben, if you can remember, do nod or shake your head in the yellow room. Oh, he's nodding. He says yes.
He said yes. All right, well, look, here we go. We've got your card. Now, we're going to try something here. Now, I can't obviously saw someone in half, but I am going to make a little tear, just like this, right? Now, I'll place this just here for a second. I'm going to come down so you can see this, and I'm going to eat it. Here we go. Can you see this?
Time's got that bad, Ricky, that you're eating cards?
Lockdown affects us all, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. A little bit of fibre. It's not too bad. Okay, brilliant. So this is where we're going to try it. Now, obviously, when you cut someone in half, the classic thing is that you put them back together, right? So I thought we could try this, but with your card. Now, Emily, Alan, do you remember your signed card?
Yes.
Yes.
What was your signed card?
It was a joker.
Perfect. Let's give this a go, shall we?
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
And here's the magic thing. We have.
No actual way.
How do you do that?
I don't like magic. I really don't understand.
It is definitely on the love-hate border, isn't it? So
I'll take that. Brilliant. Well, there we go. That's the kind of sawing in half, tearing apart, and restoring. So
you are incredible, Mister. Incredible.
Oh,
that
Thank
is
you
very
so
cool.
much.
Now, Ricky, a couple of comments.
Yeah.
First up, we have had. Is that really Ricky? There's some Matt thought you were going to pop up behind us, which would have been very cool. We might have to do that for episode 6.
Yes.
What else have we got? Oh, it is Ricky.
It is.
And Nikki has put, how does he do it?
Who knows?
Who knows?
That's
But
why he's in the
how
magic
do
circle.
you eat it and then reattach it?
I don't know.
I'm going to try that with my Mars bar because that'll be a never-ending Mars bar, won't it?
Now Ricky, taking away from magic and going back to culture today. So, taking back into your business head, have you ever experienced a very strong brand culture in any of the jobs that you've worked in over the years?
Yeah. So I guess working in retail, Argos was a very popular brand. It's everywhere, wasn't it? It was taking over. There was an Argos every 5 miles or something like that, everywhere you go.
Wow.
Something like that, yeah. But I definitely say Uber was a great example by Ben. I think as well, the brands that I seem to think of are like the ones that you use as verbs, doing words, like Google it. You don't say that I'm going to go Internet Explorer it. I'm going to Google it. You don't say I'm going to, Alan, can you pass me the correctional fluid, please? You say, no, can you pass me the
Clipex.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think those brands are so strong that they've become verbs in your vocabulary. Even Hoover as a brand, I'm going to Hoover the carpet. It's a vacuum cleaner. I'm going to vacuum clean the carpet, So
and Jeep's another strong one as well, isn't it? You go from, you don't buy a 4x4, you buy a Jeep, but that's actually a brand in itself. So
and I think that's really what you just even brought up there is the fact that the culture is the two-sided coin, isn't it? We've just talked with Ben in terms of the team and within the organisation itself, but exactly that. It's what the customer thinks and feels about that particular brand as well, and it already recognises that culture from the outside looking in as well. And we must remember there's a two-sided coin there for sure.
Yes.
Anything else on there, guys?
A couple of TNT was. Oh, sorry, I need to pop it up, don't I? TNT was a massively strong culture to work for. Was my favourite place to work.
Oh,
yeah, that's.
Nikki, tell us why you really loved it. What about your culture? That particular culture you enjoyed it? We'll put that.
Yeah, a couple of bullet points. And if anyone's got a business they particularly loved working for and felt had a strong culture, please do kind of put a 1, 2, 3 of why. Yeah, your thoughts on why, and we can bring that up in the back half of the show.
Yeah.
Right,
Ricky, get out.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ricky. Speak to you in a bit. Okay, we've got Mike Irving coming in.
Well done for changing everyone's names over today, darling.
I know, but I have realised I forgot to put this up today's yet. So as always, feel free to join in the chat or hashtag Yellow Magic Hour. Hey, Mike.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Being this side.
You like being this side? If anyone who doesn't know, we were on Sport 101's podcast a few months. Actually,
wasn't it just before lockdown?
It was like January, February time, wasn't it? Back before
everything. That was my
everything changed, didn't it?
Yeah.
So that again, I'm not sure you've got the strongest. Can you just say something?
Yeah. So you guys were on my second ever podcast.
And we absolutely love being a part of it. So thank you for having us on.
Yes, as also, because I've got to say this, Mike, apologies, this is about you, but we like little examples of this. Mike, big believer in kind of using his content. That podcast went on YouTube and as a podcast. So we love that repurposing content always. Right.
So we've known Mike for donkey's years, absolutely donkey's years, and we've loved everything you've done all over the last few years as a whole. But tell us a little bit about no. Alan, what have we forgotten to do?
Mike, tell us what you do first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning, get up, make a cup of coffee between 6 and 6:30, and then try and get some kind of low level, low brain power things done, and then start the day normally, then probably have breakfast a little bit later. But yeah, early start, coffee, basic tasks, get them mundane stuff done and out of the way, and then free to do whatever I want for the rest of the day.
Are you a morning guy, an afternoon guy, or an evening guy? Morning guy.
Morning, definitely morning.
Me too.
You love the morning. And also, you know, I'm more about the sunrise and the sunset as well, controversially at times. But I do love the mornings. Yes.
Mike, tell us. So you run Sport 101, but where I'm more interested at this particular time. What did we do before that? What's got you to this point now?
All sorts. So I've been in around hockey since I was 12, 13 years old. So I started playing back then. Have done all sorts. At one point I was going to be a chef. At one point I was going to be an outdoor ed instructor, which is where I obviously met you two lovely people through that cross lifestyle. Very different world back then. But yeah, so but I think the thing that's always driven me has been working with people. I think that's been kind of what I love doing. I don't care if I'm instructing. I did a year as a teaching assistant in a school working with kids with learning difficulties. Absolutely love that. So for me, it's just kind of helping people and working with people. And that's what's more important to me than anything. And then, you know, being able to do that in hockey for a number of years now. And then 101 started in 2015. So yeah, it's been going for a little while now, and it's grown quite a lot. So from a little centre to quite a few now.
Yeah, and that I think what led you to start that's the kind of key part I'd love to know, because it's, you know, because we know you from outdoor education and, you know, out and that, but jumping to starting a hockey academy across the UK is very different to driving to the New Forest, you know, teaching someone how to abseil. So what happened there? I'd love to know that, please.
Yeah, so I think I'd always coached hockey. So since I was 16, I'd always coached, you know, helping with under 10s, under 8s. You know, I've always kind of, as I said, coached or been an instructor or whatever. And then I kind of got to a point where I was like, actually, I want to stay in hockey. And then I was fortunate enough to get an amazing job in Marlow, which is where I live now, back in 2011 as director of hockey at a school and at a club near here. And that kind of then shaped my world in terms of actually hockey is all I want to do. And then got to 2015 and felt like actually I wanted more. Like I loved the school life and the club stuff, but I just kind of wanted more, and I wanted to do more on I wanted a bigger scale, but I didn't really know what that looked like, because obviously it was kind of brand new. Learning how to start a company, that's a whole different ball game, as you guys well know. You know, starting a small business is all the things that you need to learn and everything else. It's more than just coaching at that point. And then I just felt like I just wanted to do more and have more freedom to kind of expand what I was doing. So then started Sport 101 in 2015. I'm still very much involved in club hockey. I've taken a step away from kind of international stuff and everything else, so not involved in the international hockey anymore, but did a little bit back in sort of 2015, 16, 17. And then, spent a year abroad in Belgium, where I was still running Sport 101 remotely, which was, again, a whole load of new challenges running a company from a different country. And then, here we are today.
Yeah, so you had your first academy in 2015, is that right? How did you go from having one to then multiple? What was that journey from? Do you know?
Sorry, and as a kind of on the same question, I think you were kind of aware of your culture from the outset, which is I thought that. And so, how did you ensure you kept that as you expanded? You know, as a kind of double-sided question, please.
I guess kind of starting with how did it grow? I think I've been fortunate enough to work with some really amazing people in hockey over the years, and so I had a really good network of people who I liked working with and liked working with me, fortunately, which is always a good thing. And then they saw what I kind of set up and what it was kind of growing into, and I asked if they wanted to be involved, and that then led to the creation of more, you know, I think the first year there was kind of one center and then a couple of little pilots, but I ran all of that. By year 3, I think there were 6 centres kind of dotted around the south of England and a little bit into the Midlands. This year, if everything had gone to plan, there would have been 14. So 11 in England and 3 in Wales. So yeah, and that's just kind of people then contacting me saying, oh, can I run a centre out of my school or club? And then it's kind of just grown from there. So yeah, it's kind of grown quite a lot. And then going back to Alan's question in terms of the branding, there's kind of one phrase which has stuck with me all the way through, which has been 101 family. And that's been at the core of everything which has been going. So for me, I wanted to create something which people felt they were a part of something bigger. So it's not just turn up to a camp, learn a few skills and then leave, actually be a part of something for the long term. And that 101 family really sat at the core of everything. So whether you're a coach, a parent, a player, a sponsor, someone who we support, like actually you're part of the family. So everybody's treated, you know, with loads of respect, loads of love, loads of care, and it's about the individual. And I think having spoke to, you know, a lot of the players over the years, they feel like actually they're worth something. They're not just a number which turns up and tick, cool, thanks for your money, see you later. They feel like they're a part of it, and can influence what's going on. So actually that for me has been amazing. And then actually last year, when the academies were running, we actually had some staff members who were previously players on the academies. Wow. So they actually graduated out and then became staff.
That's actually I picked up on actually. So, but you are shaping young people what you do, and actually by installing those values and that culture from the very outset, what you are doing is empowering those young people to later on be those coaches and be those people who are then responsible for then ensuring the next generation. It is that ongoing thing to make sure that those standards are set within each person.
I know there's quite a few questions popping up, Mike. Some of them we might save for the group chat actually, but one of the key things I found, and this is for me a fantastic example of semantics, right? How important semantics is. If you'd have called it like hockey summer camp or hockey summer school or something like that, then it may have definitely come across a bit more like a babysitting service. But the fact that you went in from the outset with it's an academy, we're a family, and you wanted to ensure that the people you supported, as well as the people coming on it, as well as their family and everything else from the outset, you had those values that you demonstrated in behaviors. I've been listening to some podcasts, that it elevated it from a babysitting service that we sometimes get portrayed in scouting. For those who know scouting will understand what I mean, to something much more, much better. I'm sorry, better. I really lost it on the last word. I know. I'm so sorry.
It's stronger, isn't it? It's
stronger. That's a better phrase. Like Ben was talking about strong versus weak. Absolutely.
So one of the things I'm conscious of time, but in terms of when you scaled from one academy through to say 11, what were the things that you put in place to ensure, because you can't be there all the time. You are very hands-on. I know you're hands-on and social, but you have those touch points all across the country, but you do have to be able to hand that over to someone else in the north, in so wherever you are. So what is it that you have put in place? What kind of things do you think you have installed with your teams to make sure that actually when you're not there, when you are elsewhere, what is it that glues them together while they are living that culture for you guys?
Yeah, so I think in the first instance, over the first certainly 3 years, I was at every single I was running everything basically, so I was darting around all over the place, and then the guys that were working with me knew exactly what the brand was about because they'd lived with me over those first 2 or 3 years, so they knew what it was about. This then meant that, you know, for me, people don't have to earn my trust. I think as long as we've got a good relationship going on, then it's fine. And I know that they're going to be able to deliver well. I then can trust them to then run it. And obviously, for me, having known these guys for a number of years, as long as they understood like the mechanic, you know, if you break it down, so just the raw mechanics of how the sessions run, plus then they'd obviously been with me for a number of years, so they knew what the values are about. They know me as a human, so they know what my values are and how I want to interact with people, how I the care that I want to give to people when they turn up to a session or when they have any interaction with me. That then feeds into them, that then feeds out into the players that turn up to the academies. And at that point, scaling was pretty straightforward, particularly going up to, I'd say, 8 or 9. I think that then was really straightforward because a lot of those guys were maybe doubling up on sessions. You know, they were saying, oh, actually, can I run 2 centers or 3? Which then works really well because then I know that there's that consistency. When bringing brand new centers with staff which are new, I just make sure I have a lot of contact time with them beforehand. I'll invite them down to centers so that they can see stuff happening if that's possible. I'll be on the phone to them a lot. I'll go up and visit, particularly over the first 3 or 4 sessions. I'll go up and see as much as I can, so then I can help them and be a part of it, so then they know how it should feel. And again, one of the words which we used from day one was the vibe. It has to have a vibe about it, so people turn up and there's the music going. They know they're turning up to a Sport 101 session without even knowing. They know that the feel, the way it reacts, the tempo of the session and everything else. They know it's Sport 101.
Perfect.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. Right, we've had a lot of comments actually. I'm going to chuck up a couple just about you, and then I'm going to save the more general ones for the group chat, and we bring them back in. Nikki says, amazing, Mike. Yeah, I think we all enjoyed hearing that. I nearly said hearing that story, but I didn't think story gave it enough kind of credit. So your journey, your adventure, it was very
the journey.
I love a journey and an adventure. Laurie, marvelous, Mike. Sounds an amazing culture. I think we all got that sitting here watching now. I think we all picked up on your culture from here, and the fact you're demonstrating it as the leader is such a powerful thing. One comment about the summer camp, and we're going to save the language for the next session. Yes, summer camp feels temporary and something to dip in and out of as a childcare. Exactly that, and there's a few comments about language. Right, shall we move on to let's bring everyone into the room.
Everyone's in there? Yeah, good.
Everyone's in the yellow room. We did have a BRB. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to put Ricky over here. There we go.
Why?
Just move on with the chat, Emily.
Even Anton Dex sits in certain ways. That's what he's like with the screen right now. You have to be sat in a certain way. Sorry, Ricky.
Shall I, guys? Thanks for joining us back out the yellow room. Can I bring up a couple of comments to get the conversation going? Is that all right? First of all, we asked, I think it was on the back end of Ricky, about some strong brands and what people love. So I'm just going to flash these up, and we'll kind of add it into the conversation. So Matt mentioned Woolworths, Blockbusters, BHS, and Toys R Us were all part of my favourite cultures. Side thought.
All of them have closed.
All of them have closed. So let's hold on to that, because it might be what's the balance between culture and profitability. Let's hold on to that. So this was Dare to be Nikki talking about TNT. The values were delivering on time every time. They had a strong company ethos to help that happen. It was a line from the depot to the staff.
Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah, some nods for Toys R Us, interestingly. A lot of love for Toys. I mean, I even remember driving down from Andover to Toys R Us Southampton, and I wanted to be there. I wanted to see, what was the giraffe's name? Anyone remember?
No.
If you remember the giraffe's name at Toys R Us, chuck it in the comments.
Gerald?
No. Right.
Jeffrey. Is it?
Oh, yeah. That had to go. That was right at the back there somewhere.
Yeah, well done. Well done. Right.
Right. So what I was quite keen that now we're all in the room together. So we have all been discussing larger scale organisations. Mike's obviously with your multiple locations, that still applies. But what I think was a conversation piece beforehand was smaller businesses, and how smaller businesses may think if you're a team of 1, 2, 3 as a small team, that brand culture or your own culture within your own organisation doesn't necessarily apply. And I think that's actually not true. And I think Ben would nod with that as well, in terms of these values and how you live your culture within your business are so important, even if you are a team of 1. So I think what I'd like us to maybe discuss together is the fact that what can we learn from the larger brands that we've seen and bring that back. That cat, is that Rory the cat today, Ricky?
It is,
on.
yeah.
Hi, Rory.
Hi, Rory.
Bringing that into smaller organizations, and what we can, even if you don't think you have a culture within your organization, what can we start to put in place now to make sure that actually this is ready for moving forwards with whatever we're doing in the future? Yes, Ben.
I was going to say, can I kick it off with a caveat that
Yes,
every organization has a culture, whether you like it or not. Every organization has one. It will coalesce to a shared way of doing things and a shared set of behaviors and values, whether you've put them down on paper or even thought about them. So that has to be the starting point, that you have a culture. You can either decide what it is or you can let it happen organically.
that's a very good caveat to start off with.
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
want to put anything to that?
Yes, Ben, I think we agree with you.
Sorry, I went into teacher mode there. I apologise.
No. I think that's spot on, and I think that's actually a massively valid point. So you're right. If people are saying we've got a sub caveat point just asked in the chat that we'll come back to in a second. That you've got that. You are going to have a culture whether you realise it or not, and that's just by how you do your business every day, how you turn up to work, how you are. So you're absolutely right. Emily and I always have this thing about turning the subconscious into the conscious. You've got your subconscious culture that you're doing. What you need to do, those subconscious things need to become conscious decisions and thought processes. And culture is such a big part of that. Ben, while we're still chatting to you, Matt asks, is culture the same as brand?
No. Culture is what you have control over. Brand is how people perceive your culture, how they receive it, how they interpret it, the meaning they attach to it. Whereas culture is what you are building. Actually, these are the behaviors and the ways of doing things and the values and the beliefs that we are going to share. That will overflow into your brand. Hopefully there is some authenticity so they match up and people feel that. But your brand is external to you.
That's a really good point. And I think the brand is always external, is what you choose to put out into the world. And ultimately, your culture is what you live day to day and day. So whether it's what you discuss within your team meetings, that's not necessarily put out on your brand, but that within a team internally, that still has to be, hi, Rory, has to be front and center as well. So, yeah, I do think they're two separate things, like you just said, Ben.
But they coexist. It's a symbiotic relationship, Emily.
Oh, he got it in there. He got symbiotic.
When they don't match, your customers know. They might not be able to articulate it, but they can feel it.
100%.
There's something I've definitely felt along that, where I think some companies get confused between values and behaviors, and they say that these are the values, this is what belongs to us, this is what's important to us, but they're all process things. It could be a process mission goal, but it's not a behavior, like what Mike was saying. It's got to be a vibe. It's got to be that feeling. This is how we do things around it. And I think some companies can get very distracted of what an actual, a behavior is, or what a culture goal is. I think they get confused sometimes, and that leads to probably like Toys R Us and places disappearing. Well,
this is something that I've often, companies, when they try and define their core values, they don't go deep enough. They stop at honesty and reliability and professionalism. And my view is, anybody can steal your product. They cannot take your culture if you get it right. So that is the only thing you've got to differentiate yourself. Unless you've got £2 million in the bank to defend your IP, don't even bother. So the only way you can differentiate yourself is your culture. So if you've got things like honesty and professionalism, and you can take those core values and attach them to a competitor and they don't seem out of place, you haven't gone deep enough. Whereas, what Mike was talking about, the language he uses and the experience they get and the emotion people get when they come to the sessions. If I went to a competitor, it wouldn't feel the same. You can't put it. So that is absolutely the differentiator on why people go to Sport 101 as opposed to other people.
Yeah, and it's the value of the people. Like, people are everything. So I've, got in my time with Sport 101, I've had some guys which have been amazing and some guys which have been good and fine, but actually they've not quite, they've not lived what 101's about and been able to then put that into the experience at the sessions. And so for me, it's, I'd rather have coaches which people have no idea, they've never heard of them. So in the hockey world, it's quite small. People know a lot of coaches and they know the internationals and everything else. I would much rather have guys who I know can connect really well with the players and can create that feeling of value, of inspiration, inspiring them to push themselves, to drive themselves to be better, than somebody who's got 300 caps for GB. Like, that for me doesn't add value. if they've got 300 cats for GB and can then properly inspire, like make them really go, actually, I want to dig deeper into how I'm doing things and I want to be better, then I'll pay a premium for them. Like I'll pay the world for them, because I know then that they are special, that they're unique. But yeah, I'd rather people like the idea of a name, but when they finish, they go, okay, well, that was cool. It was fine. And that for me isn't, that's not Sport 101. Like they need to come back going, wow, I really felt a part of something. And that's the whole thing.
It's something, oh, sorry, Ricky, go ahead, Ricky.
I was just going to say, similar to what Mike was saying, when I take myself back to when I was a store manager, I think, and this happens in a lot of businesses, you recruit people based on a process or capability. But wouldn't it be great if you could just sit there and say to that person in that interview, what do you believe in? And if those values and that, what they believed in was the same as you, you would hire them on the spot, because that process can be learned. But we take people for capability. When, yes, that is an important thing if you want a job to be done, but shouldn't we be asking that question, what do you believe in? If I was to hire someone for my business and I said to them, what do you believe in? And they reeled off every single behavior and value that's really important to me, I'd say, I don't care if you can't do the job. You're coming to work with me because I want you to be a part of this.
Yeah. And I can teach you how to do X, Y, Z. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what you got very excited. You jumped out of your seat. What do you think about
just that concept of hire for culture fit? You can train for skill. And I've worked in organizations where they've hired somebody who was probably the best in the business. It was in retail. He was a commercial director, and he'd been operating at the very, very top of the industry in some big names. And they hired him, and he was brilliant, but he was an arse. 2 years later, they fired him after a lot of people left, and the culture just plummeted because of it. And you just can't afford to do that, because it takes, like Mike will probably attest to this, it takes a long time to build and guard that culture. So hiring the wrong people and seeing it kind of disappear a little bit, it takes a long time to rebuild it. Totally with you, Ricky. Absolutely. Hire for fit.
I have to say, there is a lot of love in the comments for this, what we're talking about now. It's people just saying, yes, a competence can be trained. Graham said, I was never a fan of the scripted interview, would always go off script and ask them what was their favorite karaoke song and will they sing it for me now? And I love that, because, well, with a yellow tuxedo head on, one of the things we love is fun, and that would be fun from the outset. And then for me, it wouldn't even necessarily be if they actually sung it. It would just be how they dealt with answering that question. They don't even need to sing it.
Ben, you said this to me the other day. It's about the fact that you can, obviously we have reward for doing your job well. You could be the best salesperson, like you might make all of those targets, but if you're not meeting that brand expectation of how you are within the team and in terms of that culture, then actually you're not doing your job, because everyone has to work with you at the end of the day, don't they? And you have to stay together for the long term. Just because you can make the sale, sorry Matt if you're watching still, just because you can make the sale does not make you a good employee necessarily. It really doesn't. And it makes everyone else's job harder, because they're having to work around the politics of everything, I suppose, as well as trying to get their job done and move forward with the business.
Yeah, totally. And it's actually having, like you say, having that person perform at his absolute best or her absolute best could mean that everybody else is performing at 50%. So overall, you're down.
Yeah, you are. Ricky, you had your hand up.
Yeah, my cat's destroying my office there. But I was going to say, this is exactly when we used to do, when I used to be training culture back in Argos, we used to use a lot of the work from Damien Hughes in the Barcelona way. And there was a great quote by Cheeky Begiristain, which was I think he was the director of football in Barcelona. And I think he's the director of football in Man City now. And he used to have this quote, which was, talent will get you as far as the dressing room door, but how you behave determines how long we keep you here. And it's that whole culture that they created of I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not on here. Am I? FIFO. Am I allowed? All right. Okay. So go read it if you've not read it. I'm sure Mike knows about this and probably Ben as well. It's the whole FIFO culture, which is fit in or fuck off. This is how we do things around here. If you don't
Rick,
like it.
can I? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Apologies. Can I just say, I listened to Al Fawcett's a guest on episode 6 of this, okay, and he has a podcast called Infinite Pie Thinking. He interviews some great people, and one of them, I can't remember. I've listened to a few recently. Had this exact conversation we're having now about culture, and I listened to it to get my head in the space. And the guy they interviewed gave us that exact example you've just given us, exact example word for word, and he even asked, "Can I swear? Do you mind?" and it's like, but it's so true, isn't it? You know, you have this mentality of the FIFO of actually, is that a bit harsh? Is that a bit unfair? But when you boil it down, it's not harsh or unfair at all. It's about, hold on, you're coming into our safe space. We have this safe environment, that we have our strong culture, we work and everything else. If you're not going to fit in and you're going to try and break, not even try and actively break it, but just not go with the flow, then this is not the right working environment for you, is it?
But that's the same in all sports teams. You know, obviously that has come from a sporting example. I've seen so many teams where they're like, oh, well, we kind of want to drop him or her because they're just being a bit of a dick, but actually they're the best player. And I'm like, heave ho, like get them gone, because actually, yes, okay, they may gain you 1 or 2 goals a season. If you have a complete team that's on song, you're going to score 20 plus goals a season. So, you know, it's a really hard thing, particularly in the sport context, of having all those, you know, they are, you know, potentially going to give you lots, but actually what does it outweigh? And obviously then there is the balancing act, because actually, are they just a little bit of a dick? And then you can manage that, and you can deal with it, and you can manage things around them and fight fires a little bit, and it will still be like it will work. Or are they just too far gone, at which point
you need a dickometer? How far along the dickometer are they? In the safe zone or in the danger zone?
Alan and I have had exactly the same thought process. We looked at each other because we're so intrinsically
Well,
linked.
I have to say, this is really, I didn't realize we're not running out of time, but we've got a lot to get through and not a lot of time. But yeah, tell this quickly.
Has anyone watched Ted Lasso on Apple TV?
Plus, I mentioned it to Ben when we chatted.
I watched it after, and I've binged it. I'm done now. After you mentioned it the other day.
It's a fantastic example in a TV show, amazingly well done, isn't it? On what we're talking about.
For anyone who doesn't know Ted Lasso, it's a 10-part Apple TV series, and it takes an American football coach and brings them over to the UK to play soccer with Richmond FC, who aren't doing very well. And obviously he has no football background, coming in to manage a team, has no idea of the rules, doesn't know the offside rule, all that by the by. But the whole point of it is the fact that he turns the team into a team by bringing a completely new culture from what they started. And there is one player on that team
who is the star player.
Who is the star player that ends up, well, I'm not going to spoil it, different to the rest of the team. And it's how he explores that and how he puts things in place in a comedic way, but actually there are so many lessons from watching it. Alan and I both came away from going,
yeah, we binged it. Actually, 9 episodes were out when we started. We binged 9 and had to wait a week for episode 10.
For anyone who wants something lighthearted to watch but with a really good message to it, Ted Lasso is definitely worth your while for sure.
Okay, I want to jump onto the culture versus profitability on the basis that the companies people suggested they love because of their culture have all gone under. You know, let's not beat around the bush here. Mike, I'd like to lead in with you of the balance versus, ensuring and maintaining your culture versus keeping the business profitable and going. Any thoughts on that?
I think obviously I'm not quite at the scale of Toys R Us or Argos, so
But opinion still the same.
Yeah, I think there are so many other things, like you have to then, it's not just branding or culture, it's are you moving with the times? So even though 101 has run, my 10-week academies every year, they've never been the same. So no 2 years have ever been carbon copy. And I've moved with what's going on. And actually, as was mentioned earlier in the podcast, like people, you can't, I think Ben brought this up, like you don't own, you may create an idea, but then people are going to copy it. So people then copy the first year and what that looked like to the letter. And so then every year I've kind of had to move and adjust and change course ever so slightly to make sure that it's still different, it's still relevant, it's what people want. Hockey in junior level in this country is going through a massive change over the next 18 months. So I'm now looking at the business thinking, actually, how does that then affect what I'm doing, and how can I steer the business to then suit that? So it's having that flexibility, and I guess being a small to medium sized business, I have that ability to flex. And could Argos and those guys have flexed? Probably, if they'd thought about it hard. You know, there's probably a lot of waste in expenditure and how they were running what they were doing.
Well, Mike, I think that is fair to say, isn't it? I was trying to find the list. Woolworths, Blockbusters, and Toys R Us, I think 100% didn't keep up with my, I live in a house in Southampton opinion on this. Blockbusters lost out to Netflix, basically. They didn't jump on that soon enough. So I think that's all accepted. But yeah, you're right. It is about moving with the times and keeping that balance, and, but maintaining the core ethics, value, ethos. Yeah. We've only got a few minutes left, actually. I
would like to say, so Ben, going back to what I was saying about small business, if someone doesn't even recognise right now what their culture is, what kind of things could you say to our audience at the moment in terms of starting to pit it out and thinking about what their culture is? What kind of things have you, with your expertise, could you bring to small business?
I would say, ask yourself the question, why do you exist? What are you putting into the world? Why do you exist? And why do you exist over and above your competitors? Why are you needed? What is it you're putting into the world? Start there, because that gives you kind of some level of purpose. And then off that, you can say, well, how do I want to go about business? What are the non-negotiables in the way I'm going to behave to do this? Now, are there lines I'm not going to cross in doing this? That's where you find your core values. And I would recommend putting them down on paper, because then everybody can see them and you're held accountable.
That's a really good point, especially with, we have a lot of solopreneurs, but also you may want to scale at some point, and it's like having that you always call it a playbook, is that formalization of what you're doing. Because if you nicely done, then I do talk about the same, but it's having that, because if you do choose to scale, having that actually formalized is so important, so everyone is on that same page. Right, everyone's nodding. Deadby is nodding.
Yes, Deadby nodding. So we need to do a bit of around the room. Look, thanks, guys. It's been an absolutely fascinating chat. I can't believe we're running out of time, but we want to keep this under 1 hour, because everyone's time is important. So let's go with a round the room. Where can we find you, please? And if you want to leave a final thought, you can. Let's start with Mike. Where can we find you? And if you have a final thought, please do share.
Yeah, so at Sport 101 Coach on all the channels. Well, I say all of them, mainly Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. They're kind of the four main areas which I'm living at the moment. So yeah, at Sport 101 Coach, all one word. And final thought for me, I guess, don't force your culture or your brand. It's got to be real. Otherwise, if you think, oh, I want my thing to be this, and that's actually not where you align, then you're going to really struggle. So I think if you're going to build a brand, or you're going to build something, your culture, it has to be something which you truly believe in. It has to be your proper North Star. Otherwise, you're going to really struggle, and then you down there. So that's my final thought.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you very much. Ben, where can we find you? And if you have a final thought, please do share.
If you search for Benjamin Drury or the Culture Guy on Google, I will be there at the top. My final thought is, imagine every single person in this country goes to work excited and enjoys their work and comes home fulfilled at the end of the day, feeling like they've put their shoulder to something worthwhile. Not only would it improve your business, because all the research shows when you've got a strong culture, revenue goes up, but actually it would change the mood of a nation. Families would improve, parenting would improve, the health bill would go down, the tax bill would go down. Imagine everybody went to work happy. That is what we need to do, and that is why we build cultures, so that everybody...
Oh, no!
Oh, my God! Oh, Ben, you froze on the climax. You froze on everybody, and we all sat here like this. Sorry. What? I'm so sorry.
Everybody can feel like that. That's what I wanted.
Yes.
Everybody can go to work
I
happy.
couldn't believe that. Right.
And Ricky.
Yeah,
Thank
Ricky Locke Magic, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all on there. Just a similar thing to Mike and Benjamin, really. Yeah, just I think find what you believe in and go find where that is and create that culture and make people come to it. You know, get them to believe in you, and that's all I would say. Definitely.
Thank
Cool.
you so much for right, guys. We're going to chuck you all out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Feel free to hang around for a post show chat, and thanks everyone. Bye.
Guys, thank you so much for watching us live today. We've really enjoyed that. It's been such an informative and really thoughtful chat today.
I have to be honest, the back half when was so interesting, I actually lost myself, which is why we're now panicking and rushing, isn't it?
Thank you much for joining us. If you want to join us next week is all about brand matters, and we're going to be talking to Adam from Culture Guy as well as another guest.
And another guest who we will be teasing closer to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next week.
Bye.